Welcome, everyone. As you guys come in, real quick, if you could, whether it's now in real time or in the future, hit a thumbs up on the YouTube video to show YouTube that you like this content and you want to help out this growing, dedicated channel. This is the Dr. Nick's Amazing Man Stuff YouTube channel. My name is Dan C. Bearded, and I host this show called Doctor's Orders, where we peel back all the filters, all the walls, all the layers, and show you what's going on with this company, with their owners, and with their products. Speaking of that, we got a pretty special show today, but first I would like to introduce the owner himself, the doctor himself, the co-host himself. This is the doctor of time and space. This is Nick. Nick, how you doing?
Good, man. Doing good. Always excited when I get to spend some time taking everyone on a field trip, which is what we're doing today. That's going to be a lot of fun. Doing good,
I love the field trips. Now, I'm going to have you tell everyone what's going to go on today, but is the beard bun a sign of what's to come?
I think it is. I've always said whenever I'm working down in the wood shop or whenever I'm around equipment these days, being as my beard has now made it to about table saw and sander and other moving parts length. I'm putting it up in a bun these days. I've had to start doing that like cooking, because I'm like stove height with this thing sitting there at the burner. So yeah, whenever I got to be down in the wood shop or around equipment or down helping Jill, I've been putting it in a bun these days just to avoid any unnecessary incidents.
Oh yeah.
We don't need any of that.
No, I totally understand. So I have a buddy who's got really big beard, like world champion type beard, local to me, but he also has long head hair. He was drilling holes for a fence this weekend, and he got his hair, not his beard, but he got his head hair caught in the motor of the auger.
Oh no.
Yeah. You know, the ones that are used for like ice fishing, but also
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
His head hair got sucked into it and got caught inside of it. Luckily, it wasn't his beard. It was just the head hair.
Dear God, did he manage to get it untangled or did he have to cut it out?
I believe he had to cut a good section of it out.
Oh,
yeah.
God, that's painful.
Terrifying. And he actually, so I have a video on my channel. If you look up beard disasters, he is like the thumbnail or like the lead story of it from getting his beard caught in a power tool. So I don't think he fully learned his lesson.
It sounds like not, man. Oh boy.
Yeah. And here's a good point. Dr. Nick's had someone reach out over the last week that like applauded you, applauded the company, applauded the products, but really applauded you for helping them take the leap to finally going bald and bearded. And Chris, I know, has some great humor and says shaved head saves lives. I bet you there's something to that, man. I've been in an amusement park where a woman got her hair caught in the Ferris wheel and it scalped her. It ripped off her scalp. And so there's got to be something to that.
Safety first, guys. Shave the head. This is all just nails in the coffin here. For it's just way easier, safer. I mean, come on.
Safety first. Safety first,
safety always.
G Squared said, my nearly 2-year-old son was crawling on top of my head by climbing the couch last night. His toe got caught in the connector of my neck beard. So right in that corner, ripped out 3 whole hairs, black bulbs, very painful.
Oh,
yeah. If those are those like deep rooted boys that you're just, oh yeah, that's, and you're intensely dialed in with your beard. You feel everything, you understand everything. So I could see that. Yep.
Yo, yeah, it's like your spirit animal. When that thing, when you trim dead ends on this thing, and like I flinch a little bit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a big one.
Is it gonna hurt?
Here's a question I can say that neither of us probably get very often, but any tips on how to accelerate hair loss? I'm slowly working on my wife of having me go bald. Chris, so Chris, good news for you. The male hormone that makes your beard stronger makes your head hair weaker, and that's DHT, which we talk about all the time. So ways to accelerate your hair loss: work out even more, eat more protein, and literally just be as manly as possible.
Yeah, just be a beast. That'll do it.
I think if you go like chop some wood and you like spit a few times, a couple of those things have to add up.
Oh yeah. Gratuitous scratching, you know?
True.
of
And
various body parts. That's
yeah.
important.
And I've adopted the policy of not always responding with words, but rather start using grunts and like
Mm,
noises instead. I
yeah.
think that helps too.
Yeah, I think so too. It really helps bring out you know, the what am I looking for here? Primordial man.
Oh yeah, Chris
It
just
helps bring
said
out
he
the Neanderthal genes. That's what it does. Yeah, you want to make sure you encourage it with the extra eyebrow too. You always want to
yeah.
have the furrowed brow. Yeah,
Yep, and
yeah,
lots of liver, lots of
yeah,
no deodorant, Liver King stuff for sure.
yeah. That's it.
I don't know, is Chris serious? He just learned about the Liver King last night.
I mean, he might be. And to be fair, I don't know Liver King.
What?
I don't. What's Liver
You're,
King?
you're being serious right now?
Dead serious.
Dude. No, you're not.
I mean, maybe I don't know.
Okay.
I am having one of those days where I'm like forgetting where the hell I'm walking on my way wherever
Okay.
I'm
I will
walking.
show and explain. He is a internet viral sensation and got even more popular because he got exposed. So this guy, you see the picture there, right?
Okay, I've seen this dude before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's talked about the primal life, everything we're talking about now. He only eats liver and like testicles and all this wild stuff. And he doesn't wear deodorant and he just walks around like that. And he had always said, you can achieve this. I'm all natural. Well, spoiler, his emails came out with his suppliers and he is not all natural by any means.
I
So
mean, that's a pretty tall tale to say you're all natural when like your abs have abs.
yeah, and so he for sure, we have records of HGH, we have records of a bunch of things, but now the other thing is they legitimately think he has ab implants.
Ab implants.
Correct. Yep.
Whoa.
Yep. And so yeah, he made a lot of money. He's got supplements. He was like the biggest thing on the internet for like 3 months. Yeah,
Wow.
followers 4.2 million. He is, yeah, he is definitely, he was like huge on the scene. And he started off by doing like crazy things like,
Eating raw
the
liver, it looks
squat
like.
rack where you can do the different things. He would put
Yeah.
his legs on both sides of them and do like splits with like 90-pound medicine ball and like lifting himself up just using his legs from a dead split. Like, yeah, he was interesting.
Wow. It looks
Mhm.
like he's eating like raw liver in that picture too.
Well, that's his whole thing is he only eats raw liver, raw bull's testicles, raw bone marrow and stuff like that. So yeah, that
Oh,
was his whole thing was that you needed to get all this stuff and that like legitimately he thought eating testicles got you more testosterone and stronger and all this stuff and he would sell like his liver supplements and yeah, he was winning the internet for a while.
wow.
Mhm.
That is crazy. So now that I see the photos and I see, yeah, I do recall something about this, but had I not seen the photo, no, did not ring a bell,
Yep,
which is
and yeah,
crazy. That just shows that I ignore certain corners of the internet.
for sure. Well, he was everywhere. He did every podcast. He was, man, all over the place. And yeah, he sells raw meat as a food diet program.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How's that working out for everybody? I bet.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's doing all right. He 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 established himself pretty well. And then I think he's doing the redemption tour where he's apologized, the whole trajectory of those celebrities. So yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's the Liver King. If you live his lifestyle, I think it'll accelerate your hair loss.
it might. It didn't accelerate his.
No, yeah, that's true. That is
You know,
true.
maybe it's a wig though. Maybe he's
Right.
got ab implants and some weaves.
Jill says, sounds, never mind. Good job, Jill. Good job. Self-censorship. Good thing that we have. So it was Impact on Nightline. Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've known
it,
about him for a long time. Yeah, for a
and
long time.
G squared, like I agree. Right? I'm not going to judge anyone for changing their body, but don't lie about how you do it to make money.
Exactly.
You
That
know,
that's the problem is that he was saying you can get this if you do this and he wasn't doing that. That would be
well,
me
yeah,
being like, hey guys, use beard wash and beard oil and you can have a better beard, you can do it. And like, no, that's not, and then not using it myself,
and then
like
not using it. Yeah,
exactly Exactly. So yeah, that's the
Crazy.
main problem. Everybody can do what they want, but don't sell stuff based on a lie, which is literally a purpose in the foundation of this show right here, is to truly have what we call long form transparency, where you guys get to know this company through and through in a real, genuine way. And today will be a perfect example of that. And so kind of going into that one and getting just a reminder, guys, hit that. Most of you have hit the thumbs up, so thank you. But if you haven't yet, that does help out. But Nick, give them the rundown. We got a field trip. I collected all the permission slips. We're good to go there. Liability.
Okay, everyone's all signed off?
Yep. Liability coverage is good. I sent it over to the insurance company. So what's going on today for our field trip?
Well, we have Jill and Sarah as chaperones as well. So
Oh,
I think we're pretty well covered.
I was worried, but
yeah, no, that's good. We're not going to be unattended. So what we figured we'd do today is give you guys another look down into the wood shop. We were going to go take a quick trip down and see Bigfoot Slabs. We have a really cool project going on there right now. If customs would have cleared our epoxy order from Canada a little sooner, we might have seen some epoxy stuff going on. But right now, you guys are going to see it partially through the process. And if we wanted to, as we get further down the road with this before it goes out the door, we can always go back down and check out the finished product as well. But what Tom is working on down there's a big electrical contractor in our area here who got in touch with us. They're building out a new conference room, and they got all kinds of cool stuff going up on the walls. It's going to be really cool looking in there. And they wanted a new conference table. And so we started getting into this thing with them, and it's turned into a beast. This is going to end up being a 13-foot long, 6-foot wide conference table with an epoxy river down the whole middle, which, if we're speaking in our Canadian suppliers terms here, it's going to be 90 liters of epoxy going into this thing in order to fill up this river. So Tom has got his hands full down there. He's wrestling these big 13-foot long slabs. The wood is a tulip poplar, which is also known as yellow poplar. And it's a real hard version of poplar. And the tree that this came off was just a massive tree. We've made dining tables, another conference table, and a bunch of really big other, wall installation benches and floating tables out of this tree. These are the last two slabs in the stack that we had from this tree. And they're, starting off about 300 something pounds each. So the table, if you look at the epoxy plus the wood and the legs, you're probably going to be looking at about an 800-pound table or so by the time, 600 to 800 pounds by the time this thing's done. So it's gonna be a beast. So we're gonna go down and check that out. And I figured along the way, we'll stop in and bug Jill. Surprise, Jill. We're going to come bug you. And we're going to shoot down and see what Jill's working on. I think she's making some butter. So we can check out probably the new butter machine and give that a look. I don't think anyone's seen that yet. It's a big 10-gallon jacketed vat with an automated stirring arm inside of it. It's really cool.
Nice. Yeah. And I love this. My buddy Mike said, I love your hat and I hate snapbacks, wearing it right now.
Oh man, Bearded Jedi. Which one you wearing? You wearing a straight rim? You wearing a trucker hat? I think
good
probably
question.
wear it. If I had to guess, it does. It does.
Yeah.
I'm one of those weird guys. I'll flip back and forth. Like it all depends on what I'm wearing and what I'm doing. For some weird reason, if I'm like wearing a t-shirt and I got my beard up, I like the trucker hat. If I got the beard down and pretty much wearing anything else, I like the straight rim. But one thing I have noticed too is the material on the truckers. On the Richardsons, it's like a finer weave.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get sawdust in it as much. So if I'm going to be down in the wood shop, I've been wearing the truckers because I just blow it off with the air gun and it comes right off.
Nice.
Not so much with the straight rims. With that wool and acrylic blend, it really wants that. It wants the sawdust. It wants to have it.
Yep. I totally understand. Bearded Respect says that they wear both too. Awesome.
Awesome.
And Ellie says it's the first snapback he's even considered buying.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. That's awesome.
And there was lots and lots and lots and lots of trial and error and testing hats. I literally have over 100. and I went through them. Nick has a ton. Nick went to the supplier, and it was like we wanted to really make sure it was the ones that were going to work the best for the most people. And it wasn't just anything involving cost or anything like that. These were just the ones that fit the best and seemed to achieve what Nick wanted.
And I still want like some crazy custom hat that I custom order from overseas, like from Pakistan or from China, where they can actually like do the stitching I want, and like an underbill material that would be kind of cool with the logos on it and stuff, just to do something neat. But dear God, the process of getting one of those to fit right is crazy, because like Wilson can speak to this. Chris W in the chat here, he shows up at the shop last week and he got a hat from a concert he went to, and Arcspire, and he got an Arcspire hat. It's super cool. It's got like the under printed with the album art and all kinds of
Nice.
things. But you put this thing on, and even on my head, it goes down like past my ear and puts my ear like this. Like it looks just like a Yupong though. Like it looks like a straight rim. It's constructed the same way, real nice stitching, but the dimensions are just weird, you know? And so if you do those with those kinds of things overseas, you got to like not only get material swatches, so you know you're getting what you want for material, you have to pay for one-off prototype ones of just the build of the hat.
Yeah.
And actually get it airmailed over and do that 3 or 4 times until you're like, no, make it shallower, you know? And then you can do the big run. But I mean, it's like a 6-month process of sending stuff back and forth, unless you just want to blind ship it, which, you know, we've all seen those Wish videos on TikTok. You order a blind ship hat from China, you might end up with an electric car. I don't know.
Yeah. You order SpongeBob and you got Bob's sponge. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, Bob Sponge round pants.
Shorts, Bob Sponge shorts. And Diablo wants to know, and this is back in, we're talking 2015, guys. But how long do you remember about the process of developing the logo?
Oh God, I was such a pain in the ass with this logo. I mean, we probably went back and forth 20 times on the logo. The lady who designed it for me, she's a really cool artist and a graphic designer. She doesn't do this work anymore, unfortunately, so I can't have her do more stuff for us. But you know, I mean, good God, it's probably a 4-month long process. I mean, you guys know me. It's like, if anything's just a little off, you know, I want a different version. I want to try options. Then I want 3 of them so I can pick 2 of them and then get one more and then pick one. And, you know, it's me being me. So
yep,
it took a while.
For sure. And Jay, I'll let Nick talk about it too. I personally don't like the direct to film type hats, and I'll show you exactly why here. You can't achieve that. Like that depth, that texture, like there's something special to that on the hats. And so for me, it may seem small to some people, but for me, it's all the difference in the world when you have that elevation, when you got that raise, when you got that texture. It makes a big difference for me.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, and not disparaging, because I mean, like, sure, like, okay, if Jack was doing something with sports, like my son's doing something with sports, and they're going to need a hat for a season, you know, am I going to get one embroidered, or am I going to get it screen printed direct film? I'll probably go direct film for that kind of thing, right?
Agreed.
Something that's going to like represent our brand, and everyone's going to want people to like it, and you feel like it's quality. I think we had to step it up, you know, get the threads in there and the foam in there. And especially with, like Dan was showing, with the raised stuff on the skull.
Yeah.
Someone pointed out that it's kind of Tim Burton-y with like the stitching across the foam and stuff, which I really think resonates with the brand pretty well.
Yep. And I think he fully understands. There's definitely that direct to film. I think it's just about the purpose and the situation.
Yeah, the application.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Especially the route to production with those is so quick. I mean, you can do samples real easy. You can do variations nice and quick. So, I mean, I definitely think there's a place for it. If that's what he does, I'm sure he's killing it.
For sure. Yeah, no, and it'll grow. I think, like you said, with kids in sports and stuff, when they're growing out of hats, when they're beating the heck out of hats, that, I don't know if there's a better way to go about it. And that's perfect.
Oh, yeah. Jill's even doing some stuff for Jack, where she got like he bought her the hat press for her cricket.
Oh, nice.
Her birthday, I think. And then, you know, she just upgraded to the bigger cricket, so she can do like the infusible inks and that kind of stuff. So we're going to be playing with some just random hats for Jack, letting him design stuff, and they're going to press them on there, and away you go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get this field trip, get this show going here. If you check down at the bottom, it's kind of a 2-in-1. This is the wood shop that makes all the products for Dr. Nick's Amazing Man Stuff. This is the wood shop that's in the same building. All these are within the same umbrella of Nick's companies. But the company is officially called Bigfoot Slabs. Bigfoot Slabs. I've pinned the link in the chat if you guys want to check that one out. And again, this is what they do. This is Tom and Nick really making it happen down there. And Nick's going to take us on a little field trip. He will be able to hear. He'll be able to talk to you guys as we go through. So if questions come up or comments, please put them out there, and I'll do my best to relay them to Nick as we get going. So Nick, just let me know once you want me to bring you in, and then we can remove this one once that time's ready too.
All right. Well, let's see. I'll mute and switch here.
All right. Here we go. I'm going to remove Nick from this one, and then soon you should be able to hear Nick once he unmutes it on his gimbal side. There we go.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Looks great. Sounds great.
Awesome. Well, let's head on downstairs here and we'll make our first stop, bugging Jill. And let's see what she's doing in here, huh? Oh, there's my beautiful wife.
Hi.
Is that too much of a wide angle on there, Dan? Are we seeing everything okay?
I think it looks great. Not too much of a wide
angle.
angle.
Awesome. Beautiful. I'm just going to set this here for a second. And then do you want an earpiece on your left ear here? So you oh, you can, because you're on there. Listen to that. Like a pro. Yeah, let's take a look. So what do we got some butter action happening here. All right, let's take a look down into the beast.
Wow, that's so cool.
Oh yeah. We got our nice little, what you have here is this thick wall is so thick with this little vent over the side there, this little smokestack back there, is this whole thing is jacketed in mineral oil. So there's like 4 gallons of mineral oil in the walls of this guy. And so if you look down at the bottom, there's these 2 big ass heating elements that you got here with our little control box in Celsius, of course. What you end up getting is essentially you set your target temperature, and these heating elements heat up your mineral oil in the walls of this, and then all of your solids melt down and get stirred by this motor right up here, and that stirs your little stirrer inside and gets your butter right to where you want it to be and holds it there as long as you want without any direct heat actually hitting it. So heated. So you got, oh yeah. So I've damn near lost a finger on the heat on this thing. You're like, oh, is it warm yet? And sometimes it's way more than warm. So you gotta be a little careful there. But this just makes, I mean, talk about a ramp up in production though. I mean, this thing was like a game changer for you.
Yes, it was. I made triple size the batches now. I'm so excited.
No, that's awesome. So, yeah, this thing is a lot of fun.
Hopefully it'll be getting ready to go later today. So.
Beautiful. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear Jill or not, but
yeah,
she basically said, you can? Okay, cool. Yep. Well, I got my background noise turned off on this thing, so hopefully you'll hear me. You can hear Jill, and you'll be able to hear Tom, and I'll give Tom an earpiece so everyone can hear him. But my other mic decided it only wanted to, it picks up audio really well, but it also wants to route the speakers through the microphone input. So just so everyone knows, I'm stuck using Samsung buds right now for all of that. So we'll deal with that.
All right. Well, don't be late for the field trip.
All right.
You gotta head on down to the wood shop.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Say bye, Jill.
Bye, Jill.
And then, of course, she has our just a few things going out today in the order bins. Just staging up, shipping orders. Happy. I don't know if you guys have seen this on Instagram, but you haven't seen this live in person yet. This is one of our newest additions from a automated pneumatic bottling machine, piston driven. It's got huge actuators in here that's really good for the shower products to be able to suck down big bunches of conditioner. I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. Nice big hopper. So you're able to get about 8 gallons in here at a time. And it's got a really cool pneumatic actuator for really accurate dosing into the bottles, and a cool little adjuster over here where you can set how much volume you want. All right. Jill says I'm a little glitchy on my audio.
There was just a random timer too, but it works itself out. You're more than good.
Okay, cool. Funny thing about ordering these things from overseas, the numbers that are on these scales mean nothing. They actually don't mean anything. Like if you're trying to fill something that's 8 ounces, you want it right here at, I don't know, 11.1, because that makes lots of sense. And then you'd think that 16 ounces must be like, 22.2. No, 11.1 for 8, and then you're at about 17 for 16.
Nice.
So, figure it out is what they say.
Totally logical.
Yeah, totally great. Okay, well, by production floor, we will continue on downstairs here.
And there is a deadly corner usually, you guys, when he comes around to go down to the shop. So if it cuts out for a second, he will be back.
Yep, it'll come back. I actually installed an access point down here just for that reason.
Nice.
So with any luck, we'll actually be okay. Hey, and there's Tom. I'm actually going to give you this. It wanted to, there we go. It wanted to use the microphone as an audio. So you can just put this in your left ear. And we'll see if Tom can hear Dan.
So
Checking in, Tom. Hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Can you guys hear Tom?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, guys, for those of you who don't know Tom personally, this is Tom. He runs Bigfoot Slabs. He is the creator of all the awesome stuff that you guys have seen down here in the workshop, and any of the stuff that you guys see online, anything that's epoxy, that is all Tom. He is the master of all things epoxy. And
we got a first.
What are you working on?
Nice beard, Tom.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's a requirement for the building. We gotta make sure we're on brand here from top to bottom. But tell us what you're working on. What's going on here?
Right now, I'm like a massive conference table.
Yeah.
It's 12 feet wide, 12 feet long by 6 feet wide.
Yeah.
Trying to get rid of all the mark, the epoxy, so there's no separation or anything like that.
And so this thing looks nice and flat, like it's pretty, and that is obviously not how these things start off.
No.
Show us what this thing kind of starts with and where it goes down.
We do have a little bit of a hard time hearing him. So Nick, if you're ever able to kind of like re-articulate, that would help out.
Okay. Yeah. So what you're saying is, you basically have, it starts off really rough looking like this. You see like it's all the saw marks in here. And it's kind of hard to tell probably on video, but you can kind of see this thing's got a pretty good bow to it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got some space missing down there. So if these things start off like 3 inches thick, how thick will this be when it's done?
2 inches.
About 2 inches. So you take an inch off, so if you're flattening it and you're starting over here and you kind of draw a line going all the way across, all that goes, So that's all wasted material. And then the opposite on the bottom, if you're coming in through here, you draw a line, it kind of loses this stuff over here. So show them what the mechanics of this thing look like when you got a 13 foot piece of wood on here and you want to make it flat. What's this jig doing?
This. Got this nice bit here.
Yeah, so you got a big ass router bit underneath this guy, carbide cut little discs on here, which are cool because instead of having just one blade on these, I don't know if you guys have used these before, but these little blades are squares and you can loosen them up and you can turn them to get a new edge. So you don't have to replace the whole bit every time it gets dull. Yep. Right.
Pushes across. Lines goes across.
Yeah, probably be a little noisy. Yeah, this thing gets loud down here. But basically, I mean, you look at this whole length of this. I mean, that thing's only 1 inch wide. So you guys figure, everyone wonders why these types of conference tables and tables cost so damn much money. It's a lot of back and forth. I mean, you figure, how much are you removing per pass? Like 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch. So, I mean, you got to figure, if you're taking off a whole inch, that's the equivalent of 8 passes all the way across, about what, 3/4 of an inch wide at a time, just about, right? So if you got 12 feet to worry about, you're basically looking at 1/8 depth cuts that are about 3/4 inch wide per pass, across and then back, and you scoot it down and you go across and back and you scoot it down and you rinse and repeat until you get all the way down all 12 feet. So, and then you lower it by 1/8 of an inch and you go back to the beginning and you bring yourself all the way back again. So, I mean, it is an insane amount of work getting these things flat.
And Ruben has a great question. He says, any estimate on how many man hours are invested in just one table? So something like this, any guess on hours?
Well, yeah, they're on all of our quotes. So, I'd say, God, what was this guy? I mean, you're looking at damn near 40 hours of just flattening wood. Yeah. I mean, it's about 40 hours of just doing the prep Tom's doing now, to get this. And you look at the length, you can see the width of the passes here. Those lines that you see are the routers, each pass that you're making. And you got to figure you're going to bring 3 inches down to 2. And then you got to do the cleanup that Tom was doing over on the other slab that's already been here. I mean, it's all the bark and all the little pieces of rot, which, I mean, these end up being like the coolest parts of the table.
Right.
But they are a giant pain. I mean, you look at the tool Tom's using to do this. He is not a dentist. I'll give you a pic. I'll give you a little hint what this is for. And
wow.
It's literally, you look inside these little pieces and it is going through and finding anything that's not wood and pulling it out.
And what is, I know Tom touched on it, but what's the reason for that? Why can't you just pour epoxy to that material?
So what will happen is the bark continues to decay, even though, it's still there. So it'll create separation between the wood and the bark, where the bark's not actually part of the wood.
And that could actually like lift up the epoxy and cause voids.
Gotcha.
You could get moisture in there, all kinds of problems, right?
Yep. All kinds of problems.
And I mean, a lot of this is bug holes too, which is tricky because we've learned over time that these holes, they don't go straight through, they go everywhere. You look at the shape of like that hole there where it kind of looks like a, earlobe kind of a shape. I mean, that hole could do that throughout the wood and just snake its way all the way through. And it could come out the end for all you know.
It's basically an ant farm. So
if you've ever looked at like an ant farm on the side, it literally is like those style holes are all throughout this wood. I mean, you just can't see it on the surface. But when you go to pour epoxy in these guys, I mean, early on, we were like, okay, cool. We got the ends taped. We got the sides taped. We got this secure. We got a good form. Life should be good. And then we come in the morning and you realize that you've, decorated your concrete floors with blue epoxy. So, and at $100 a gallon, those are not fun mistakes.
Ooh.
That stuff is not cheap.
Yikes. And Diablo says, I've never heard of a conference table with a river. Such a cool concept. They are unbelievably popular right now, these epoxy river tables. And man, people can come up with some amazing things. And a lot of people probably feel the same way. That epoxy content is like some of the most satisfying things to watch on the internet.
Oh, dude, it absolutely is. We have a really cool one that I'm editing up for Tom right now where he just did a big version of this. I CNC routed it and it was in a big walnut table. This is just a test piece, but I mean, basically we got a really cool video though of this thing basically getting poured, but also then getting sanded and then getting oiled where all of a sudden, like all the color just comes out of it when you wipe it. So keep your eye on the Bigfoot Slabs Instagram page, because that guy is just about to probably drop this week. It'd be a really cool video.
and they're tagged on the current post. If you guys saw the post for today's stream, Bigfoot Slabs is tagged on that post. So go give that a check. And there's already, there's a couple of reels shared on the Dr. Nick's page today from Bigfoot Slabs. There's already great content over there. I think if you guys like this stuff, go make sure you check out that Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff like this on there where, you know, look at that cool color that you get out of this blue epoxy with the mica. I mean, it's just so neat looking, and seeing it happen, like people say, is just so cool to watch. I think it's one of those things too, where even when you do it all the time, you probably don't get bored of watching it go in and like watching the colors develop and stuff. No, it's like, cause you never quite, it's like, it's so organic. It like does its own thing and like it swirls around and it plumes and.
Oh, for sure. And kind of two things on this one, Ruben, and this just makes you think about the total cost, which is absurd, but $100 a gallon, that epoxy alone is going to cost like over $2,300.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Easy. Just cost on that epoxy is $2,000 in epoxy.
Oh my God.
I mean, yeah. So people see the bills when they come up with these ideas and they're like, yeah, we want to do dual rivers on a barn door with 3 pieces of wood. And you're like, sweet, $3,800. And they're like, all right, one river.
One slab of wood. Yeah.
Yeah. They changed their tune real quick.
And one thing I would love for you to touch on, Nick, because you always explain it really well. And if people are not familiar, epoxy is a very fascinating like science experiment of how it works. Can you briefly explain how it works and how important the timing is and the temperature and all of that? Because I for one, I really love learning and hearing about that.
Yeah, so I'll use this thing as an example. This is in the middle of getting sanded. So I mean, it's a coffee table top. So you know, 3 feet by 30 something inches, and you know, you look here on the sides, and so I can let Tom describe this a bit. But how many layers? How many pores was this?
This was all
3 pores. So you can kind of see like there's an obvious one there where there's like just the straight teal, and then you have the teal and the white, and it looks like there's probably like one in between these two to give it a little bit of depth. So the white kind of then would float on top of some clear to separate the kind of, you know, or, you know, separate the cloudiness from the blue a bit. But what we learned, which was really kind of a crazy learning process, is the ambient temperature really affects. If you want to swipe that, go ahead. Yeah, the ambient temperature really affects the way that the epoxy cures. And so what I mean by that is we figured, so epoxy generates heat when it dries, right? It's an exothermic reaction that happens, and it creates a fair bit of heat as it cures. I mean, it can get really hot. And we figured if the temperature in the room was lower, then you'd probably generate less heat. And it's not the case. It's actually quite the opposite. So the exothermic reaction that takes place when the epoxy is curing, the thicker it is, you know, the more heat it's going to generate, which is why they make certain epoxies for certain applications, right? Most epoxy, you can only pour like that thin. You can go like 1/4 of an inch with most normal epoxies. Not even that. And some of them, it's 1/8 of an inch where they want you to pour it.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And then so they make another kind of epoxy called deep pour epoxy, where you can go up to 4 inches deep on some of them at a time. Most of them, they recommend you still stay within like 2 inches. But what ends up happening is if the room is too cool, it'll generate so much heat that it'll actually crack the epoxy. It could expand, and it could then contract. So what's crazy is the more heat it generates, the more it contracts, right? Like the smaller it gets when it's cured. Yeah. And so you could end up with like big dips where like you come in here and like this would suck in, and you'll have like a lip of wood, and then it'll drop down to the epoxy, which is why you always over pour it a little bit and let it go over to the edge. But even then, if it's too cool in the room, you're going to lose so much expansion volume that you could still be shrunk down below the top, which sucks. And so it likes to be in about 70 degrees, which in New England isn't always easy to do. So we have a dedicated room back over that way that has a little space heater in it, and it's below ground. So you warm it up to 70 and it stays there pretty well with a little oil heater. But when we were first learning that, we were like, what the hell is going on? Why are we getting cracks? Like, why is there lines in the surface? Oh yeah, huge learning curve. And it's like you see these videos on YouTube and it looks like people are haphazardly kind of just mixing up a bucket and dumping it in between two pieces of wood.
Right.
And if someone does that and makes it look easy, it means they just know what they're doing, because
Right.
it is not easy.
Right. Yeah. Lots of experience.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Couple of good comments when you were talking about the cost, and then you were like, I'll take one river. Donald said, I'll take them in coasters, please.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect.
So good. And then G Squared had a great question, and Nick Jill had a little bit of feedback, but he said, Nick, I used to manage high-end knife and cutlery shop when I was younger, and I remember some custom knives with beautiful wood handles with some cool inlays. Are you a knife fan at all? And Jill said that you have some beautiful cutlery, and G Squared said he would love to see sometime.
Okay, so anyone who wasn't listening gets a second chance because my earpiece dropped out onto the floor.
No problem. G Squared.
Hold on.
Okay, let me know.
Technical difficulties. Audio. Headset.
Check.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear us or me?
Oh, hold on. Let me switch it and I'll switch it back. Fun with mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Bluetooth.
Don't drop your
Now I'll
speakers,
switch it
kids.
All right, Dan, audio check.
Good over here. You good there?
Check.
Check.
Uh-oh.
Sound good to me. I know, Jill, I was thinking the same thing. Look at that river, and it's like it's clouds, and it's got like some white water from some rapids. That thing is beautiful.
Maybe that did it. Let's see.
And just
hold
imagine
on.
Putting some oil over that thing and glistening
Okay,
it up.
we're gonna switch and speakerphone. That's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna switch to speaker and forget the headset for right now.
All right, you got me?
Can I hear you, Dan?
Check. You able to hear me, Nick?
Sure can.
Yeah.
Un momento. I'll just finish it up from up there. Not sure what's happening there.
We will keep this show going, guys.
I'll come back for it.
Nick will come back and bring us in. How much would a coffee table like that be? Good question, Ruben. I don't know. More than my brain can fathom. But yeah, that table was downright beautiful. Downright beautiful. Hey, look, it's me. All right, so I'm gonna bring Nick in over here. Okay.
And we'll just switch back to there and we'll handle questions from up here.
Perfect. So I'll hit the question we were on and then kind of let you just take everything in the direction. But essentially, G Squared said that he really appreciates fine cutlery and knives and custom handles and inlays. And Jill said that you had some beautiful cutlery, and G Squared said he would love to see sometime. You able to hear me there, Nick? Check. I think your Rodecaster might be muted on the thing itself.
So it's back. I just had a little bit of a switchback issue here. So as far as inlays, wood handles, and stuff like that goes, G Square, let's see, what was your actual question? It cut out right at the end of that again.
Yeah, he was just asking if you have some, if you enjoy those, or if you have some like custom knives, and Jill said you have some nice cutlery.
Oh yeah, dude. So anything that has like full tang knives and like the old way of making knives. We actually have some guys that are local here that come get wood from us to make really cool turned handles and other stuff like that. And man, they just make some such cool stuff. I have a few. So I have like some special edition ones from Frost Cutlery that are really cool. Some like really neat laminated wood pieces. I'm all covered in sawdust now.
It just looks like a cool design.
Yeah, right. It's like it's the new faded Dr. Nick, you know?
Yeah, the acid washed. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we call it the industrial. I don't even know how walking through the wood shop, I just got this dusty. But yeah, no, I think what I want to do though is I want to work with one of these guys that buys some wood from us, and I want to try to give him a piece of really cool inlaid wood and see if they'll make me like a custom piece that I can have with maybe a logo in it or something for Bigfoot, something to keep down there.
Yeah.
Tom makes some really cool big wood mallets, and we call them the BFMs.
Got it.
Now, that sounds like maybe I wouldn't be able to say it on stream, but clean it up. It's Bigfoot mallets.
Oh, got it. Yep. That's exactly where I was at.
Yeah, I figured that must be where your head was.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. So that thing is huge.
Dude,
Huge.
it is a monster. And, sorry for the technical difficulties of earpieces here, trying to, I don't know.
It was great.
We'll figure out the field trip audio one day and get it right. But it's, until then, yeah, I mean, it's insane the amount of work that goes into those, though. Like, people, you really don't realize it because people watch them get made. And sometimes at like much larger shops, they do have like big automated flatteners for things like that. And they got big drum sanders they can put them through. But each one of those pieces of equipment is about $100K. Like, you're looking at about $100K for an automated flattener, if not more. And then for a really big, like 50-inch, drum sander that can actually take something that heavy and move it through on a conveyor belt, those things started around 80 or so. So, I mean, there's about $250,000 worth of upgrades that we could make down there eventually. That'll probably bring that time estimate down. But what's funny is those shops that do that, they end up then overcharging for the overall piece, and they give flat rates and they don't list out labor. And so they end up charging about the same because they have to cover the cost of that equipment. So we solve that problem Tom solves that problem with just brute force labor. And the result does, I mean, it is, I think, every bit as, if not nicer than some of the ones that are used with the big machines.
Yeah.
Because everything's perfect. Tom's a perfectionist, like down to the 32nd of an inch for thickness on the gauge all the way across that thing before it gets epoxy. Jeez. And I mean, he's dialed in.
Now, have you poured epoxy yourself?
Oh yeah. Plenty. And I wouldn't say I'm nearly as artistic with it and as good as Tom is with it. There's a couple of different methods of pigment that you can use with epoxy. There's mica, which is like a powder, and it's like a colored mica powder that you can use in the epoxy. And that gives some of like the sort of swirling effects and some of the plumes that you see with the variation in color.
Yeah.
But then if you're going for things that are a little more organic looking, maybe a little less modern, you use alcohol-based liquid dyes. And the liquid dye is a solid colored pigment. So any variation in color you get only comes from mixing separate buckets of epoxy with those liquids. So if you wanted like a matte color, but you wanted variations of grays and blacks with some white, you would literally, every color scale jump you make is a separate mix, a separate pour, and those have to then blend together. So for doing, like, for example, you'll see on the Bigfoot website, if you go to bigfootslabs.com, you'll see a bunch of stuff that looks like water rivers. And those are an insane amount of layers. Like, you could have 15 layers in one of those tables.
Oh, wow.
To the point where you have some blue, and then you have some clear, and then you have some white. And then to get the waves and to get like the water effects that he gets, you have to hit it with a torch or a heat gun to kind of direct the epoxy, and it sort of folds over itself as it rolls through. And it's just a crazy layering game. And then what people don't realize is you can't pour more epoxy on all the way cured epoxy without prepping it first. So epoxy has a couple of states. It can go, that one right there. Yeah. So that table there is probably 10 to 15 layers of epoxy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And you look at like those little circles that he gets and like the white little spots that look like clouds. All of that is from a little blast of a heat gun. So you get the white pouring in there and you heat gun it. And so epoxy has 3 states. Epoxy has liquid, it has a gel, and then it has a solid state. And so that one's mica, and then, oh yeah, just such cool stuff. I made that clock. That was one that I made for my mom. And so, you end up, so what ends up happening, and lost my train of thought, is with, when you're working and it pours the first layer, it's a liquid, and then it reaches a gel state. And at the gel state, you're able to pour more epoxy on top of it because the new epoxy will marry itself together with the curing process of the first layer as it cures. So if you time it right, you might be looking, if you did a 1/4 inch pour, you might be looking at 4 hours before it hits the gel state. So you figure beginning of the day, you pour your first layer, middle of the day, you pour your second, and then end of the day, you can pour your third. Well, now you got to go home, you got to sleep, you got to eat. So what happens when you come back in the next day? Well, it's all the way out of the gel state, it's hardened, and you have to hit it with sandpaper to completely scuff it up. So all the beautiful epoxy you just did, come in the next day and you ruin it. You got to scratch it up, give it lots of areas of surface and texture where the new epoxy can grab and bond to the first or second, third layer of epoxy.
Yeah.
So it is a crazy timing game. And you then compare that to, okay, that's a 1/4 inch, shallow pour epoxy. What happens if you're doing a big 4-inch pour with deep pour epoxy? Well, that stuff can take 12 to 20 hours to hit gel state, and it can hit 48 to 72 hours to fully cure versus 4 hours of a gel state and then 24 hours to cure.
Okay.
So, the depth, the volume, the length, the thickness of the layer, all of that, and then the type of material you're using and the brand. And I mean, you're talking, some of these are 1-to-1, some of them are 2-to-1 ratios, some of them are 3-to-1 ratios of epoxy. So, there's depending on the brand, depending on the depth, depending on the material and the desired outcome, there is a lot of variables that go into it.
Whew, goodness.
Lots
and guys,
of math.
we got about 5-6 minutes left of like talking time here. So if you have any questions about Bigfoot Slabs, now's a good time. Chris B had one, Jill's helping him out there, but G Squared wants to know, what's the smallest wooden object you would make? He said, like, am I crazy to say like a wooden pizza cutter, or kind of what's your process of somebody, because obviously you do stuff for big companies that's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. What if somebody was like, I don't quite have the budget for that, but I want something really cool? Where's kind of a starting point?
Oh man, if you want something cool in your house, think about like a really cool serving board that can live on your dining room table. Or we've made, Tom has a really cool system of making lazy Susans. He makes charcuterie boards, cutting boards, things like that, drink paddles, all sorts of things. And now he also has gotten into getting some stuff that was externally machined, like cheese slicer wires, where you can have like a little arm and a cheese slicer that comes down. We haven't messed with the pizza cutter yet. And I will say the only thing to keep in mind is Tom doesn't do any wood turning down there. We don't use a lathe. He's not a wood turner, just something that it's one of those specialized things where you're either a wood turner or you're not. And it's just something he hasn't ventured into yet. So doing like handles, things like that, for like pizza cutters, we don't do a whole lot of that. But as far as things like this go, like these paddle shaped cutters, and I can publish it to our doctor, or I can publish it to Bigfoot's Instagram. We have a whole template sheet. It's like 60 something designs of different shapes of these charcuterie boards, cutting boards, butter boards, serving trays. And they're all numbered. So you can, when we start working with someone, we'll oftentimes email them that, and they can pick what number of a board they want and then pick a type of wood. But then we do desks. I mean, he does mirror frames, picture frames, desks, end tables. I mean, we've definitely made some smaller stuff. Stuff has left our shop for $100 before, I can tell you that much.
Oh, that's cool. And guys, again, the Bigfoot Slabs Instagram is just going to continue to get bigger and better, but you can see just some of the crazy ones. And look at this process here, the epoxy.
Yeah, that's a flood coat. So that guy already had the river poured. So the river's cured, everything's good. And what Tom's doing there is using a trowel to apply a thin layer of epoxy on the surface, and they call it a flood coat. And what ends up happening is it coats over the whole sides. And then when that is then sanded and polished, it looks like a candy shell finish over the entire table, on top of the wood and on top of the epoxy.
That's beautiful.
This guy was crazy. This was such a cool project. We love this guy.
Teeth?
So, yeah. So this guy comes in and he says that him and his dad, who is no longer with us, used to go down to Florida when he was a kid. That's where they used to go vacation, in Destin, Florida. And Destin's known for its white silica sand beaches, and it's known for being a really good place to collect shark teeth because it's right on the top of the Gulf. And so they used to go down there and collect shark teeth, and he had megalodon teeth and old, fossilized teeth and cool little sand shark teeth. And he said that, hey, I've reached around to a bunch of people. I got a crazy idea. No one wants to stay there on that one. So what he wanted was these shark teeth embedded into a bar. Him and his dad used to like to go to a bar and hang out together. And so he wanted a bar in his house that would make him think of his dad whenever he sat there and had a beer with his buddies. And so he actually wanted a layer of sand, and then he wanted shark teeth and then epoxy to make them look like they were sitting on the bottom of the ocean. So Tom we ordered white silica sand, and he poured it in the bottom between the two slabs of wood.
Yeah.
And then poured epoxy, and then did a layer of epoxy, then sand, then another layer of epoxy, then placed shark teeth throughout it. And so that's literally a beach scene of, 10 pounds of sand underneath a few gallons of epoxy.
Wow.
That's burled maple is the type of wood you see there.
Just straight up beautiful. And then this one, I came over here to see this because it caught my attention on the website. This one is really cool. Now, is this done? I've seen videos of something like this. Is this done with some sort of electrolysis, like electricity going through it?
Yeah. Yep. And what we used on this guy is a big transformer with 2 electrodes. And what it does is you use a soaking solution in the wood that is it's highly conductive, and what you can make it out of baking soda and water. So you get baking soda and water at a certain ratio, or salt, and you mix it up and you soak it into the surface of the wood for about 5-10 minutes, and you wipe it off. And then you put a contact on the handle and then another contact on the end, and the electricity finds itself through the wood and it creeps together and creates lightning patterns.
That's crazy.
Oh, it's just super duper cool.
Beautiful.
And then I just take epoxy and I swipe it down. Oh yeah, click on that one. It shows the epoxy getting swiped into it. This is me doing this one. I electrocuted and epoxied this guy.
Wow.
I mean, look at that.
Fills. Yep.
How cool is that to watch?
Wow.
And you see all the little pieces come out and the little fractal patterns come out. And
yeah, that's downright beautiful.
It is super duper cool. Like it's just a really fun process. It's kind of therapeutic too.
Yeah, I believe it. And then is this laser etching the Bigfoot Slabs logo?
Yep. Yeah. So that's our little laser engraver. That's the one I'm using whenever we make our display bases. That's how I laser on the Dr. Nick's logo onto the boards, is this little laser.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
but it's
many cool things.
Super fun stuff. Yeah, those things came out great. Super duper cool. I mean, it's just fun stuff. Yeah.
Wow. So you can epoxy and it can act as like a binding agent too?
Oh yeah. So like if you took that board right there and you went up to the 3rd floor in our building and you threw it off the roof onto the loading dock, chances are the wood handle would break or the piece of wood at the top would crack in half before the epoxy would break, and way before the epoxy to wood bond
separate. Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The wood will 1,000% break before the epoxy to wood relationship would break.
That's downright crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. The epoxy is really strong stuff. I mean, and this is just popping bubbles. That's like the name of the game whenever you get that last coat on. And that's what makes a big difference with certain products too, is certain products bubble more than others. So you look at just like anything, right? The prep and setup, just like we talk about, is oftentimes the part that's most time consuming. With this one, popping bubbles is the most time consuming. It really is.
Wow. That is stunning. I could watch that stuff and hear you talk about that stuff all day, because I'm like Donald. I can't even do Legos, and then hearing about this, it's literally a new world, but it's so satisfying. There's something about it that is like primal, that like taps into you.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, maybe what we'll do one of these times, maybe it'd be cool to actually turn on the Lichtenberg machine and electrocute some wood and see it actually move through the wood on camera.
Let's do it. Let's electrocute some stuff. I've been waiting for you to say that my whole entire year.
Oh man, that'd be awesome though. I love that idea.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play with my audio a bit more and see if I can convince Android to not try to send audio back out through a microphone. And maybe I'll be able to figure out how to like actually have an earpiece in along with a functional mic that works on a phone. So we'll keep playing with that with StreamYard and trying to play with the settings. And when we do, let's get back down there and electrocute some stuff.
Yeah, don't tempt me with a good time, and I will take you up on that.
Well, I know what we're doing in June when you get up here.
Ooh, let's go.
We're going to pour some epoxy and electrocute some wood. We'll get the kids dirty.
Yes,
Get
please.
them doing some stuff.
That'd be so fun. Heck yes.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
He said it, you guys. Remember, I didn't ask for it. He said it. So when
And since you're driving, you can bring home whatever you make. We'll make sure we do it early in the weekend. And then before you take off on Sunday, we'll swing by and grab it. You can bring it home with you.
Perfect. Write it down. Write it down.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With that said, we are over time, but that's okay. That's okay. Nick, take us home, wrap it up. I just want to say thank you guys for watching. We genuinely love this show. Look forward to it. It's such a bright spot. And if you guys could, if you have not, just make sure you hit that like button and just confirm on there and check out the other videos on this channel if you have not already. Many of you have. Your comments have been on fire over the last couple of weeks, and it's so appreciated. Keep giving that feedback. Keep asking questions. And a huge thank you from me. I love working on this stuff, and I'll kick it over to the doctor himself.
Oh man. Well, thanks for coming with us, guys. You know, it's always one of these fun adventures, right? Taking something mobile on a live streaming app and trying to get audio and video and everything to work. But I'm glad we at least got it to behave long enough to check everything out. And thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it interesting. If you do and you want to talk about projects, we got Chris B, who's already reached out about a project that I got some ideas on. I think there's a couple others who have reached out too. I believe Garrett reached out. We want to work on a desk maybe for a new game desk for him. Ooh. So don't hesitate. Reach out. Let's figure out how to make it work. If you want something awesome from Bigfoot Slabs, we'd love to help you out. But meanwhile, we will see you next week. I'm going to go down and help Jill bottle some more beard wash and beard conditioner. So that's going to be the rest of our day.
There you go. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.